everybody. What a day, what a day. It's been a wonderful day today. Beautiful weather here in Houston, Texas. And I've just been thinking about some encouragement for your spirit, just some encouragement. And what I've really been thinking about is this tendency to be socialized, especially now with what I'm doing now on social media, where it's as if we're reticent to have any time where we're just alone. And I want to deal with this point, and I solemnly believe it, that for greatness in our minds, we have got to stop thinking that aloneness means something negative. It means depression. It means being sad. It means being depressed. Being alone does not have to mean any of that. In fact, being alone can actually be a time for us to recharge and meditate and pray and come out and perform even better now that we've been recharged. We've taken it inward. We've meditated, and now we feel even better. What do I mean? I don't know if you guys are baseball fans, and you don't even have to. I don't believe you have to be baseball fans to get this one. I don't even know that I'm necessarily a baseball fan, but I know I am a pitching fan. And oh my goodness, did you get a chance to see Christian Javier in the World Series? Game 4, Philadelphia had just beaten up on Houston the night before. I mean, they were knocking that ball out of the park left and right. And here comes young Christian Javier, and he pitches a no-hitter. What does that mean? That means that no batter that came up against him was able to get on base from their bat, from hitting. No home runs, no just base hits, nothing. In fact, he was just striking people out left and right. And when he didn't strike them out, they were pop flying or they were hitting the ball to where one of his outfielders could catch it. That's what a no-hitter is. It is improbable. It is almost impossible to do in the World Series. In fact, the last time it was done was in 1956. That's how rare it is. It's only been done now twice on this big stage of the World Series, and Javier was able to do it. And if you think about it, even though baseball is a team sport, that pitcher, that's very lonely on that mound. It's really just the pitcher. It's mano a mano. It's kind of it's the pitcher against that batter. But I want to concentrate on the pitcher. And Javier, while he was in the act of performing this no-hitter, there is this tradition in baseball, and that's what I want to get to, because I wonder if it would be helpful if we do this same tradition in our life. The tradition in baseball is when a pitcher is in the throes of, it's second, third inning, it's like, wait a minute, he's pitching a no-hitter. Do you know what happens? What happens is they turn their back on the pitcher. No, that's not what they're doing. Kind of looks like that. But no, for the good of the mindset of the pitcher, everyone leaves them alone. They are left alone to their thoughts so that they can stay in the zone that they're in. How about that? That's kind of different from life, isn't it? You think of anything else that we do in life, it's almost as if as soon as you start doing good at that thing, then here comes a crowd. Here comes fair weather fans, and here comes, if you're great in the workplace at a certain project, now all of a sudden you have all the help you can stand on said project because it's a successful one. This is something different, and this is going to a new point that I'm wrestling with it. I'm sold on it. I have not yet come to be able to do it yet, but I think it's something that we all need to work on, and that is when you're in this zone, take some time to yourself. It's okay to be selfish about being in the zone. What do I mean the zone? I mean, look at this picture here. This picture is in the zone just like Javier Lopez, excuse me, just like Christian Javier, and they're leaving him alone. So the next time you're grappling with something very important, the next time you're creating something that requires a great deal of concentration, the next time you're writing, you're drawing, you're taking on a challenge that you've not taken before, take some time to yourself and ask folks to kindly just give me a moment. Give me a moment here. There's some icons of my faith, which is Christianity, that have gone through this, and not the least of which is Jesus Christ. In my faith, there is a time when Jesus was preparing for his undoing by way of the Roman heinous execution called crucifixion. Before this, it is written that Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he prayed to the Creator, to the Father, God on high, please take this responsibility away from me. Is there any way that I don't have to do this? And then it is written that he prayed so fervently that his sweat was rolling down like bullets, like bullets of blood. This is a good depiction of it here, where you see his followers, we call them disciples, his most trusted followers, they weren't with him. All he asked them to do was to stay on guard to protect him while he was praying, and they continued to fall asleep. That point is for another day. The point I want to make today, though, is for him to get in this highest form of prayer, even to the point of praying to where sweat like blood was coming out, he had to be alone. So he had to be comfortable with being alone for him to get to this higher level. There's other times too, right? I mean, I think about Dr. King as he sat in that Birmingham jail. He sat in the Birmingham jail because he protested in Birmingham for civil rights. There's a comedian that tells a joke. He wasn't going for extra special rights. He was going for just the basic human just to be civil rights. For it, he landed himself in jail, and in jail alone. And while he was in jail, others, just like 2,000 years before that almost, in that Garden of Gethsemane, others who should have known better weren't with him. Others, in this case, other members of the clergy who should have known better, wrote him a letter saying that he's going too far, that perhaps he should pack it in and not try so hard for these civil rights. He should wait a while. Now's not the time. And from this alone time, Dr. King crafted one of the most profoundly great letters ever. Letters from a Birmingham jail. You should check it out. In these letters, he talks about, hey, you're writing to those other clergy folk. You're writing from a position of privilege. Yeah, your life is such that you don't have to worry about fighting right now. You already have a lot of the freedoms that I'm fighting for. So yeah, it's easy for you to say not to fight. And then, of course, in King's way, there was a lot of eloquence there, and he gave metaphors. But here's another point. Here's another situation where, like pitchers, when they take a moment to stay in this Zen-like state, here, Dr. King was forced into this moment, but nonetheless, he took this moment to write a letter that not only informed those clergy, but it informs us even today. Take a look at that letter. It is profound. It is encouraging, especially when you consider that it was written from jail. About Harriet Tubman. So Harriet Tubman was married before she began her escape. In fact, she was trying to get her husband to join her in escaping from enslavement. But she ended up, her husband would not take this journey with her. And so she ended up doing it alone. I mean, just imagine she's in her 20s and she's stricken with severe epileptic seizures from an earlier terrible abusive situation where a large piece of iron was hit her in the head. One of the owners of the estate where she was enslaved was trying to throw it at someone else and ended up hitting her. And so for the rest of her life, she had seizures, and she would even have dreams. Sometimes there were dreams that she felt like led her to some good things. But at any rate, the humanity I want you to think about with Harriet Tubman. She's no deity. She's a woman that had extraordinary gifts of bravery and of vision. And in this time, the first time that she escaped, she had to do it alone. And then, of course, after her escape, she came back over these 10 years, over and over, multiple trips to help others. The point I want to make today, though, is her first escape was alone. My wife, she put on an expo at JCC, that's Jamestown Community College. That's in upstate New York. We lived there for a few years, and wow, what a test. Very cold and very small town, especially when both of us had lived in Detroit before. So we went from this booming metropolis to this small town in upstate New York. Don't think New York City has nothing to do with New York City. Think more like, I don't know, Mayberry, if you guys know that reference. Think more like Mayberry, but it just happens to be in the state of New York. Yvonne wasn't working at the time, and this is in 2010, and she decided to put on an expo so that the young ladies at the local high schools could enjoy prom dresses and could look nice for their prom. You see her quote there. I'm hoping this exposition will help to open students and parents' eyes to business they may not have considered before, said Yvonne Young, one of the partners of Order My Step Expos. Queenie, I call Yvonne Queenie. Queenie started a company, y'all. A company that was about putting on these events, such as this one. Continue down to the bottom, the next paragraph. All these vendors are giving away free items in their drawings, said Miss Young. And she's encouraged that they may be walking away with some goodies for their graduation. I continue. There's a picture of some of the prospects, young ladies and their parents, looking at some of the goods for some of the vendors. And it was, by all accounts, it was just a fantastic occurrence. And at the end of it, Yvonne said to this reporter of the Olean Times-Herald, it's something we certainly hope to do again. She had this vision, and she went out and she did it. I'm making this point because I did not support her. Had nothing to do with me. In fact, I was so on this corporate ladder and trained on rising the ranks of corporate America that I was like, oh, shit. I kind of poo-pooed her expo. And what I'm telling you now is that was a mistake. And I've apologized to her over the years for it. In fact, when she sees this video, she'll be like, man, you don't have to keep apologizing for that. I'm only going back to it because this was her doing something alone. I didn't even support her with it. And it was successful. They were able to turn a profit. And those of you who are in business know it's hard to turn a profit with your first venture of anything related to business. But she did. And she did it by going it alone. Said differently, sometimes even the person sleeping next to you, your spouse, may not be able to go with you on a particular venture. Something to think about. And then I come to my son, Jaden, a fantastic artist. This is his rendering of me a few years ago. He's 16 now. He was about 13 then when he drew this. I think about the time that he spends alone to craft masterpieces like this. I can't help him. I don't have the facilities. Yvonne can't help him. His brothers can't help him. This is a God-given gift that he hones his craft mostly alone. Of course, along the way, some artisans have helped, some teachers along the way. But when where the rubber meets the road, when it comes time for this artist to art, he's up there in his room alone, y'all. So I've told you examples of Christian Javier. Then I've done examples of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. We talked about Dr. King, letters from a Birmingham jail. We talked about Harriet Tubman, her first escape being alone. Her husband wasn't even encouraging and decided he didn't even want to go with her then. And then we talked about my own fallacy in not supporting Yvonne in the expo, and then we ended it. The last thing we talked about was my son Jaden, the great artist, who for the most part has to art alone to create something beautiful. And now we come to me. There's been many times when I've had to go it alone. The one that I think about a lot is when I decided to come to Houston. Yvonne did not want to come to Houston. In fact, to get her to come to Houston, I literally, over time, after we kept having tiff after tiff, as I was here and I would be traveling back to Detroit or traveling to upstate New York to see her, I finally got the idea. It's like, look, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to woo my wife. I'm just going to go and seduce my wife into coming. So I went and wined her and dined her, and we got a hotel, and we did what married folks do, and I got her Got her to see things my way at least enough to where she finally said to my question was, well, Yvonne, if you're not going to take a chance with me, then who will? By then, I had proven successful in working at Ford and buying a house in a suburb of Detroit. And by then, I moved to upstate New York, and we had amassed some family success from that move. And here I was with another move to Houston. And so the question was, quite simply, why wouldn't you follow me? And if you're not going to follow me, who would you follow? And that pricked her heart, and she said, "You know what, Manny? There is no one else. I'm gonna come along with you on this venture." But I had to do it alone, y'all. The initial part, the initial interview, the phone screen, coming down here to Houston for the on-site interview, even the secondary interview. I did all of that alone. And then she finally turned, and I'm telling you, it was the best decision. I think she would agree. It was the best decision of our lives. It's a lot warmer here, too. We've been healthy here. We've successfully raised our children here. And in the end, even though it was a decision that I ultimately had to make alone, I always say, Yvonne, I'm going to just have to drag you kicking and screaming into wealth. So we've been able to be prosperous from me sticking to my guns in that case and just going it alone. And that's what I want to leave you with. Is there something that you're wrestling with, that you're trying to get someone else, even if you're married? That's why I gave those marriage examples. Even if it's your best buddy, that's why I gave that disciples example. Even if it's coworkers, that's why I gave that fellow clergy example with Dr. King. Is there something that's on your heart, a move that you need to make to better yourself, to better the lives of your children, your spouse, your family, your friends, and you're not making the move because you're waiting to have some kind of consensus decision making? Think again. You may have to go and get freedom yourself and then come back to get those who you love, like Harriet Tubman. Or you may have to go first, get everything squared away, get the new job in the new location, have all the yeses, all the marks checked, and then you may have to woo your spouse, your loved one, your significant other. You may have to woo them into coming along with you. Just wanted to take a moment. I'm going to leave it there. Really, really lofty thoughts, I believe, but I think it'll help you. Again, have the most wonderful day. We are thinking about you all the time. We want you to prosper. And if there's ever anything that we can do to help you, don't hesitate to let us know. See you soon.